Okay, welcome back. This is Wayne Madsen with the Wayne Madsen Report, the Sunday Roundup, and we're coming to you live tonight from Washington. And I want to play this before we go to our guest. I want to play this clip. This is what you will be hearing, what we've heard this past week on the streets of not Tunisia, not Libya, not Egypt, but Saudi Arabia, something that would have been unthinkable just a few months ago. If we can play this clip. This is what people heard on the streets in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia this past week. All right. Okay. Well, that's the sounds of people in Saudi Arabia chanting. They're not happy with the government there, the ruling monarchy that's been in power for so long. Well, let's go to our guest, Mike Springman, who was actually at the U.S. consulate in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, in the late 1980s. Mike, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
Oh, well, thanks for coming on. And you heard that clip, and I think we've seen problems in Saudi Arabia, of course, in the past with problems. There were, incidents in Mecca at the Kaaba during the Hajj, but this is something that seems to be sweeping from Jeddah after the floods, and the Saudi government really didn't do anything, to now the Eastern Province, which has 2 million Shias who are looking at what's happening to their cousins in Bahrain. Also, it's a majority Shia population, and they don't like what they're seeing. But you were there, and what are your reflections? Many people never thought that this would sweep this Arab revolt would sweep into Saudi Arabia, but it seems as if it has.
Well, my impression, I've got to say, it's been some time since I've been in Saudi Arabia, as I call it, the Magic Kingdom. But when I was there, the CIA base chief at Jeddah, Eric Falkenbush, had once told me that Saudi Arabia was a well-run police state. That essentially the government kept the lid on, that demonstrations, that opposition just simply were not permitted. And that anyone who did complain about the current situation disappeared. They went to jail, they were exiled, whatever. There have been in the past a couple of bubbles. In the first Gulf War, there were a number of women got together in Riyadh, and they drove cars without licenses to do so, because women are not permitted to drive in Saudi Arabia. They were promptly arrested and released in the custody of their husbands. I guess about 7 or 8 years ago, there was a situation where intellectuals got together and sent a message to the king saying we'd like to see some changes. We want a little bit more representation. We think that any kind of council should be more than an advisory council. We want something more on the lines of a real legislature. And the king took their this under advisement, and that's been pretty much the way it's been since then.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Additionally, I was doing where the Saudis were recruiting people for the Gulf War, not the Gulf War, I'm sorry, the war in Afghanistan against the Soviets. And they were happy to recruit all these people and get them out of the country for training and things like this, but they didn't let them back into the kingdom because they didn't want them to take their lessons in learning how to blow things up and shoot things down and apply them at home to Saudi Arabia.
Right, and here we have the very beginnings of this organization that they love to throw at us all the time as the boogeyman, Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
It was funded by the Saudis. It was nurtured by the Saudis. They got their travel money and their passports from the Saudis to go to Pakistan and Afghanistan. And now, lo and behold, now that we see a mass uprising in Yemen, what do we see? But so-called Al-Qaeda has conducted a terrorist attack in Yemen. Now, why do I think that that's not this Al-Qaeda, but a certain organization we've come to love so much that also was involved in nurturing and supporting them and picks, pulls them out of the hat like a rabbit every time they need them, the CIA. And their friends in Mossad because they both have worked together in that part of the world.
Yeah. I mean, it almost goes back to the Middle Ages with the Catholic Church ranting and raving about Satan and the devil, and they had to burn people to stake to convince them of the errors of their ways.
Absolutely, and I know that I've been in touch with some members of the Saudi opposition. When I say Saudi opposition, of course, they're painted with the Al-Qaeda brush as well. They say we're not Al-Qaeda, of course. This is just a tool used by the Saudi government, just like Mubarak used Al-Qaeda, and we're hearing it coming from Gaddafi. He's saying that he's under attack by Al-Qaeda. President Saleh of Yemen, who's been around for over 30 years, he's claiming it's Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. It's nonsense, because the Saudi opposition has told me what they want is a democratic Arabia, and I noted that they left out the term Saudi. Of course, as one person said, how would you like your country called Bush America or Rockefeller America? Even though that may be true, we don't actually call it that, although, in a de facto sense, maybe we are. But, this whole thing with Bandar Bush, Prince Bandar being so close to the Bush family, we had the bin Laden family investing money in George W. Bush's first failed oil venture, Arbusto, which many people call Arbusto, and the close relationship that old man Bush has always had with the Saudis. Not to mention many other of that Bush crowd. I think that the fact that the Saudis may be on the ropes, if we're looking at a sea change in the world, that has to be the biggest potential change in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen things there. There's a Saudi blogger called Saudi Jeans, like Blue Jeans, and he's writing about pro-democracy activism, and translating and publishing a declaration of national reform, saying that they want elections, they want a constitutional monarchy, and they want people held accountable to the law. And, of course, the Saudis have managed to block a lot of this stuff and taken down the websites on which this was appearing.
Oh, absolutely. And, isn't it funny now we're seeing the Obama administration start to change its tune from regime change to people working within the system, whether it's Morocco or Jordan or Yemen or Saudi Arabia. Of course, this is just a ruse to keep the status quo, in place.
Oh, yeah.
And we saw the waffling on Mubarak. I really think that the Obama administration, just like and it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, they're all the oligarchs in this country. They just hate to see the change. And if we see democratic governments, of course, the neocons are trying to run around saying, oh, it's the Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamists are going to take over. They're going to turn the Middle East into a caliphate. That's because they've had this nonsense they've been putting out for years that Israel is the Middle East's only democracy, which is patently false, of course. It's a theocratic state.
Yeah, exactly.
But they can't use that anymore. With the rise of democratic governments in Egypt and other countries, possibly, and Tunisia and possibly now Libya, if things turn out well there, if they don't descend into civil war, we may see better democracies than this ruse of what people claiming. They claim it. Israel, and we have to say the Palestinians as well. I mean, Mahmoud Abbas is not even legally the president of Palestine. Yeah. He holds on to power there, so I think what the Arabs are showing is that they do understand democracy when some other pseudo democracies in that region have no idea what democracy is even about.
Exactly. Across the Arab world, they've been suffering for years from governments imposed on them from the outside. And in the case of Saudi Arabia, the Magic Kingdom, Abdul Aziz ibn Saud was imposed on Saudi Arabia by the British government in India with the help of the Philby family, most notably St. John Philby and his son, the Russian spy Tim Philby. At the same time, the Foreign Office and the Cairo Bureau were trying to promote the Sharif of Mecca as the king of the Arab world. And it's just absolutely amazing.
Right, and this goes back to the machinations of the British Foreign Office after World War I with their deal with the Colonel T.E. Lawrence, who was a notorious pedophile, I might add, through the British lot in with the Wahhabi Sauds, the most extreme religious sect you find in Islam, and basically forced the Hashemites up to Jordan and Iraq, and of course the Hashemites were fairly moderate, being very moderate Sunnis. And now we just see this playing out all these many years later. It's amazing. This past week we had the last surviving U.S. veteran of World War I pass away, but we're still left. We're still left with the some of the secret backroom deals made by those colonialists in places like London and Paris and Cairo.
Yeah.
And well, I do know that from talking to people from Saudi Arabia, you're right, though, they can't really say anything in public because they've got these religious police that run around, of course, and they can throw people in prison. And, of course, I guess the Shias are demanding that some of their clerics be released. But we will be right back, Mike, and hopefully we can clear up this problem with the phone line. We'll be right back from Washington after this short break.